Welcome in, Reclaimers. Today, you know what we're talking about. We are not talking about Lindsay Clancy. We're talking about the disgusting, slime-covered foids that are trying to make Lindsay Clancy out to just be it's just a little oopsie. I just maybe felt like slowly strangling the life out of my 3 children. But there were really strong feelings. So, can we just not think about it? Can we just let that go? No. That is what we're talking about today. Let's see here. Let's start with this. Oh yeah. Remember to pray. Yeah, it's a good idea. By the way, we'll pray in a second, but a lot of you guys probably noticed I'm not in a super happy, gracious mood at the moment. I don't think I should be. I know there's probably going to be a lot of Christians who will say, and I know this because some people have already tried to do this, who are saying, "Oh no, we need to be calm and gracious and compassionate, and we need to make sure that we're having a balanced view of all sides here." No, not with this. How about we start with compassion for all of the kids whose lives are clearly in danger with these SSRI mommies? How about we maybe get over the idea that, we gotta be super nice and calm, and that's how Jesus was. No, I don't think Jesus would have been super nice about this. If Jesus can call the Pharisees a brood of vipers, whitewashed tombs full of bones and dead things, which is horribly offensive back then, by the way, then I think I can call these creatures disgusting foids. I think we've passed the point where it's okay where we just need to be we just need to be nice about this. We just need to be super compassionate, and no, we're past compassion for the perpetrators. It's time to have compassion for victims, and maybe that means being a little bit mean to the perpetrators sometimes. Anyways, before I get too much farther into it and go too much farther off the rails, we probably should pray. Heavenly Father, we just ask that you'll be with us. Lord, now is not a time when it's easy to have grace, but Lord, we ask that if there is grace for us to give, if there is grace for us, Lord, that you would give it to us. Help us to extend grace where it's needed, and justice in the places where grace is not. Help us to be discerning and wise, yet firm and strong in truth and goodness and in protection of the lives of those who are in danger right now, very clearly. Help us, Lord, to find the best path forward, whatever it may be. And I pray that whatever the best path is, that you would facilitate it and help us to walk it and draw others to it. In Jesus' name, amen. All right. Back to the video. Oh, and by the way, yeah, sorry. I'm still having internet issues. Yeah, maybe we could flip some tables over. Exactly. I am still having internet issues, loss of connection and all that. I got a new router, did not help at all. So I'm going to be on the phone with Ziply here after we're done. Today, I'll probably cut out a few times. Sorry, I can't stop it. Another we could do today. We're just gonna truck through it for now. Anyways, a lot of you probably have seen this already.
I'm completely overwhelmed trying to take care of the kids. I'm drowning every day. I feel guilty that
It's all these women showing off their kid while saying, "Same, Lindsay, same."
I'm terrified of Callan getting sick. He's a sick baby, a sick
While holding it, these kids are not safe.
It's miserable. I feel feel like the other kids are gonna get him sick.
By the way, another thing that has been pointed out, and we've been noticing a lot in a lot of these videos, very nice clothing. My wife said she's seen this bassinet before, this like stroller thingy. It's like $500. This is not cheap stuff. These are not like poor, helpless, low socioeconomic women posting this stuff. This is predominantly, so far, all rich white women. We're in very nice houses who've spent a lot of time setting up this stuff. These are all very carefully crafted and curated things.
All winter long. She wrote that, right?
Correct.
I always feel strong.
This is not cheap hardware for your kid. These kids are living a nice life. You are living a nice life with your nice manicured hands and your, rings and stuff. And, oh, you're reversing your tears? Okay.
It'll be okay. It's not harmful.
Yeah, the noticing will continue until morale improves.
People sleep
On the baby monitor. Oh my gosh, what? You have a baby monitor so you can get some peace and quiet to yourself while your kid happily plays on their own. You have all the comforts of modern technology.
as a third child. Is what she wrote, right?
Correct.
Yeah, the more pampered they are, the more victimized they feel by even the slightest responsibility. This poor little kid. Has no idea that their life is in danger.
I feel incredibly sad and guilty about not
I don't know why we need to show the breastfeeding.
That was the one
Don't know why that was necessary.
immune system, and I can tell he really doesn't like the formula. I'm very sad about this.
It's absolutely a national security risk. It is, yeah.
That's what I needed to do for my mental health. She wrote that.
She's so sad.
The statement started getting
See, okay, so that's a bit of what the premise is here. Look at all of these beauty standards that I have to live up to, and I have to do this routine that's so difficult to please the men in my life because they just, I have to, emotional labor and all of this labor to maintain my looks. With all of these super expensive tools that almost certainly my husband provided for me. Worked his ass off to give to you. Thanks for the gift memberships. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I do it. Yeah, they say I do it for me. But then also say, well, these standards that men put on us. Yeah, sure, it's the men. The men doing this to you and making you do this, but also we don't do it for you. Yeah, make it make sense.
smaller and smaller as time went by. One occasion, it's like I'm desperate to get a mental break from taking care of everyone. My mind is trying to make something physically wrong with me. My mind never.
Oh, she's got to do so much. So well. Oh, look at all this physical demanding labor that she has to do. Making food and folding clothes. Oh yeah, you exercising. This actually looks fun. Hanging out with your kid? Well, exercising? Having done it before, it's actually kind of fun. This is so hard. I have to maintain my body for myself, I guess, because it's not for the guys. Same, Lindsay. Don't be smiling. Don't be smiling.
There is nothing that needs to be on my mind. The weight is lifted from my mind. I will sleep tonight. She wrote that, right?
Correct.
Yeah. Okay, same Lindsay. As she smiles, yeah. Same Lindsay. We know what that means, right? This is a conversation my wife and I were having yesterday. She's like, what do you mean? What do you mean same Lindsay? What do you mean? What it means is I feel the same emotional pull to strangle my child that Lindsay felt. I feel the same homicidal impulse to end my offspring's life that Lindsay did. You know why they're saying same and they're trying to normalize it and make Lindsay into the victim is because they themselves have not just the same thoughts and impulses, they feel terrible about it. They feel guilty because they know it's evil. And they know they know that following through on that would be wrong. And they know that ruminating and continuing on in those thought patterns is evil. They know it. And rather than fighting it rather than trying their best to repent of it, find a way to change the tapes in your head and meditate on better things and do anything. Maybe, I don't know, maybe put down your phone. Don't be on TikTok so much. Instead of doing anything, well, besides getting heavily medicated, besides doing anything but scroll on your phone and pop pills, they're not willing to actually do anything about it. So what they're trying to do is they're trying to normalize the behavior and make it okay. They feel the same pull, the same evil impulse that Lindsay did. And they don't want to change it. They don't want to fight it. They don't want to get rid of it. They want to get rid of their guilt for it. So what they're doing is they're trying to make Lindsay into an innocent victim of her hormones or her husband in some way, so that they can feel vindicated about their own desire to kill their children. Let's make no mistake about that. These women want to kill their kids, and they're trying to justify it. They're trying to make her innocent so that they can feel innocent. Every man in this country needs to audit their wives and girlfriends immediately to see if they support Lindsay. Yes. Worse, they're trying to normalize it. Yeah. They're not just trying. Yes, exactly. They're trying to, and demonize anybody who speaks against it and says, hey, this is wrong. You should not be doing this. You should be, we are seeking help. We're going to therapy because that helps so much today. And we're on tons of pills because that helps. Sure. Yeah, you're going to a therapist that is teaching you to hate your husband. Which, by the way, not unconnected to this. This is another thing I noticed is, thanks for the gift. I've noticed that my wife often will, she treasures our son. Like she has been in tears these last few days just at the thought of harm coming to him because she's been watching this happen, and just the idea that something like that might happen to a kid or could happen to him has been bringing her to tears. Because she cherishes our son. The reason why, and she says this all the time, she says she treasures arson. No. Yes, Gunnar, I should say his name. She treasures him because, and she says this all the time, you look just like your dad. She's like, you're so handsome, just like your dad. My wife treasures me, and so she treasures our son by extension. How a mother feels about their kids has to be a reflection of how they feel about their husbands as well. Because it's whenever they look at the kid, they see their husband. If you're a woman who despises your husband, that kid is half him. You're going to see his face every time you look at that child. If my wife looks at my son and goes, I love this child even more because he reminds me of my husband, how much more do you think women go, I hate this child because he resembles my husband and I hate my husband? How much do you think? Those things are connected. Bretman, thanks for becoming a supporter. Appreciate it. I'm sorry, but my PTSD is way worse than any postpartum, and I would never kill my kids like Lindsay. Another thing to note about it, their youngest child was 8 months old. Is that really postpartum depression? At 8 months? generally speaking, your hormones should be starting to normalize. If it's hormones. And that's not even to say, we're not even going to entertain the thought that hormones excuse this. No. I don't even know that it was postpartum depression. I think she just despised her husband. No amount of therapy or no cocktail of pills was ever going to change that. And so even though he did everything for her, he tried working from home so he could be closer to her more. He got her all of the amenities. I believe they had like a nanny or a babysitter or something to help. And he got her therapy. He got her everything. And it still wasn't enough. She was still miserable with this life, this wonderful life that he had provided for her. She settled for a beta. That's my theory. I have yet to see a woman, and maybe this is something that we need to test for ourselves a bit more. I have yet to see a woman who was happy with her husband and attracted with her husband ever have like any of this like long-standing, deep-seated like angst about being a mom. Of just like, oh, this is such a burden, and oh, I have to do so much emotional labor. I've only ever seen that with women who aren't really thrilled to be married to the man that they're with. With an 8-month-old, is PPD even common? I've heard the preponderance minimizes over time. That's exactly what I'm saying is I don't think that could be it. Because I think you're right. There might be some lingering effects. Maybe. But there's no way that it's still the same. Ray, I freaked out when I just slight grazed my son's head, and I'm so scared and worried I was a bad mom. Same for my daughter. I could not even imagine doing anything close to what she did. Yeah. Yeah, she Googled how to kill her kids and how not to get caught. Psychotic people research, but not that meticulous. People who are caught up in an emotional or hormonal moment don't do that level of premeditation and prep. This was a long-standing thing. Was he a beta or did she just marry a psycho? That's the part I don't know. But what I do know is there are lots of women defending her and apparently feel the exact same way that she did. So I tend to think it's less that she was a psycho and that there's something in the water, or these women just genuinely despise the men that they're with. Why else would so many of these women despise their kids and be so sad about having their kids and so wish that they could be free from their kids and have these impulses? Why else? Make it make sense to me. What's the word on what SSRI she was on? All? It was a cocktail of like 10 or 12. It was a lot. Yeah. But Lindsay Clancy, not the only one. This is breaking news. North Carolina woman who unalived her 3-year-old son and attempted to unalive her 2-year-old son is now pleading not guilty by reason of insanity. Her attorney said she just had a mental break with reality due to postpartum psychosis, just like Lindsay Clancy. Her name is Andrea Faust. She's 41. This was much more recent than Lindsay Clancy. Hers was like a year and a half ago. This one was just back in February. The police was called by a neighbor saying someone had come out running out of Andrea's home screaming she tried to kill the babies. Despising their children because they despise their husband is in the 10 ring? Yeah. Yeah, I have not seen it be any other way. Can we, I don't know, can we task some research groups to figure this out? See if there's a way we can research this and actually back this up with data? So right now, it's just my anecdotal observation. Yeah, please God, intervene and protect these children. Yes. Let's add that to our prayer from earlier. Please, Lord, save these kids. Because even if these moms don't end their kids' lives, how miserable of a life do you think you're going to have growing up knowing that your mom didn't want you? There were times in my childhood where I strongly got the sense that my parents didn't really want me. And that wasn't even really that true. It was nothing like this. But even just the sense of it wrecked me emotionally well into my 20s. How many orders of magnitude do you think it's going to be worse for these kids? Especially when they grow up and find these TikToks floating around the internet, because the internet is forever. Doesn't matter if their parents take it down, it's still going to be out there. They're still going to, they're going to still see these retweets. Ray, whenever my kids are not feeling well and I can't do anything but to help, I feel helpless. A parent wants their child to be happy and healthy, not to suffer. Yeah. So that begs the question, are these women just not parents? They're just not qualified. They just can't do it. Anyways, yeah. Faust was arrested for first-degree murder and attempted first-degree murder. In the days after, she tried to take her own life twice. Very similar story. One attempt left her with fractured bones in her spine, requiring surgery. Similar story. The judge found her too mentally ill to stand trial. If you're too mentally ill to stand trial, you are too mentally ill to exist out in public. If you're that insane and you're that much of a danger to the humans around you and yourself, that you can't even go to a trial. Sorry, I'm going to upgrade what Nick Freitas said. You don't just need to go outside. You don't just need a helmet to go outside. You need to go in the box and stay there. For your own safety and the safety of the people around you. Instead, this woman won't even see trial. She'll maybe go to a psych ward, where typically you get let out earlier. She will be foisted on the world again. Now, her attorney says he sees similarities between Andrea's case and Lindsay's case. According to the attorney, Andrea and Lindsay's cases are eerily similar. Both women were known to be loving, doting, responsible mothers who were worried about and caring for their children up to the very second they decided to kill them. That seems a bit inconsistent with some of the rest of the story, given how long these women were dealing with psychosis or depression or whatever you want to call it, and how long they had been on SSRIs for these things. I don't think that they were excellent mothers right up until the moment that they decided to just do this. Both women were reaching out to their own mothers to come help them because they both recognized that they were having horrible intrusive thoughts, and both... Okay, but that that contradicts your story already. This did not just pop up the very second they decided to kill the kid. No, it's not like that. At some point, they did not feel safe around their children. Right. Both were beginning to have auditory hallucinations, which they were doing everything in their power to ignore or make go away, including seeking out psychiatric help, being prescribed medication. So if you're hearing voices, you need Jesus, not pills. Not therapy. Especially not therapy. Not some like feminist megaphoid who's just going to make things worse because she's going to inflame the situation, make her despise her husband even more by blaming him for everything that's going wrong. Geo for sure. This is why I think surrogacy plus single fatherhood is the safest alternative for fathers and his children. Modern women are too unstable, even Christian ones. Yeah. Guys, I've been really resisting the black pill and all of that, but man, it's getting hard. Because at this point, like, I've been talking for a while about how the trust has been broken between men and women. And in this conversation between the tradcons and whatever team it is that I'm on, a lot of it is centered around divorce and how badly women ruin men in divorce. But at this point, that's not even the worst thing that can happen to a man. Like, it hasn't happened to me, but I put myself, I just imagine for a moment what it would be like if my son was murdered. The level of anguish that I would feel in that moment of finding out, I don't know how I would be able to go on. I don't know how I would function after that. I don't know how any of these men who've been through this are still functioning humans. Divorce is no longer the worst thing a woman can do to you. Fun Griff, if you're hearing voices, you need Jesus and a psych hold. There are medications, there are medical conditions that can cause it, but so can over-prescribing pills, yeah. Yeah. I don't think it's entirely always a spiritual issue because there does seem to be something going on with our physical bodies when it comes to depression and things like that. But there also is definitely something spiritual going on as well. And so, yeah, solving it a lot of times is going to involve figuring out how both of those things are interacting and dealing with both. Yeah, I agree with it. Yeah, they're most likely husks of their former selves. Yeah. Like, I cannot describe how devastating it would be to lose my son like that. The man up and just marry these women. No changes to our social structures, legal structures. No changes to our authority structures or accountability structures, even as Christians. No changes to anything. Just man up and get married. Because the risk is low, especially if you're a Christian. Man, what a woman can do to make you suffer far outweighs the frequency of how often it might happen. We have a lot to fix, guys. We have work to do. Ben Feister, I don't know if you saw Andrew Wilson embarrassing Tommy to her face on Piers Morgan. I did see that, actually. It was pretty funny. Because of this Lindsay Clancy case, I honestly hope every live panel interview Tommy gets confronted and call out. Yeah. I actually have the thing from her pulled up here. Oh yeah, this is the woman who...
her 23-month-old child in February. She plans to plead not guilty by reasons of insanity. WRL Sean Gallagher has been following this case. The Lindsay... The attorney for...
Yeah, that's enough of that. Tommy Loren, speak of the conservative white woman devil. I know a lot of Republicans don't want to hear this, but the right is on the verge of making the same mistake with young women that the left did with young men. I know some of these women are fun to mock, and I get it. I do. I do it too. Do you? I haven't seen it. But we have to do better if we want to bring them over to our side. If we totally alienate young women, we will not win elections. We have to find a way to appeal to them. And this is coming off of another post where she's saying, making fun of girl bosses and telling women they shouldn't value their careers too much might make for some fun podcast banter, but it's alienating and pissing off a lot of otherwise conservative women. Just thought you should know. If they get pissed off that guys are saying, nah, you need to turn down the career aspirations and focus on supporting a man. If that pisses them off, they're not conservative. Well, actually, by the strictest definition of the term, they are. They're trying to conserve the current progressive order. Thanks for the gifted subs. Really appreciate it. But she's referring to the right wing. Last thing you know is the ultimate advocate for girl bosses, Donald J. Trump. Well, yeah, he's a bit of a, I'm something of a feminist myself. That was nothing. That sounded nothing like, that was my worst one. But yeah, a lot of the replies to this were really good. Kangmin Lee, who is W Korean. Women have spent the past week fawning over defending and identifying with a woman who strangled her 3 babies to death. You can't resonate with insane, morally depraved people. Based. Thank you, Kingman. Brian Atlas, coddled women who defend a mom for killing her 3 children or women won't vote for us. Nah, they can get effed. Greetings, Captain Cisco. Just saw MTR in airport. Nice. Is Tommy still childless and using her own last name in marriage? I believe you're right. Yeah, Koreans have a worse birth rate than we do. Yeah. He's got a much bigger fight for his people than we do for ours even. Pissing off women is no longer a concern for men anymore. We want to save the Christian West, and the most likely means taking most of women's rights away. Well, yeah. At this point, so like I had mentioned earlier, I have tried to be very balanced in my approach to this particular issue. I've tried to be very gracious. I've tried to work within this sort of Christian framework that, you know, we need to be firm about the truth, but we also need to, you know, try to think from other people's point of view, and we need to give others the benefit of the doubt, and we need to be gracious. We need to extend grace to others because grace has been extended to us. So we should try to keep the emotions as calm as possible and just think rationally, deal with the logic, expose logical fallacies, whatever. Just be decent, even-keeled Christians. And I'm very much starting to get over that. I am very quickly being radicalized. I saw a post, somebody saying, you know what? We can either, and I think this might be in here somewhere. We might see it at some point. Somebody posted basically, you can either have your society crumble to dust, your entire continent run red with blood, everything turns to ash, or we can be a little bit mean to women sometimes. Pick one. It's glitching in. Yeah, we got some drops. Oh my gosh. Yeah. It's no longer... We no longer have the luxury of treating the situation as if hurting a woman's feelings is a crime. We don't have that luxury anymore. See, before, we were just having a logical debate. We were trying to get to just the truth of the matter. And so at that point, it did kind of make sense to try to be even keeled about it. No. A large percentage of our female population just took their mask off and revealed themselves to be homicidal maniacs who are completely out of control. This is not an issue that can be reasoned with. They didn't arrive at this conclusion based on reason. I'm sorry, Tommy, but no. We do not need to cater to them or coddle to them. If they require us to be nice about their girl bossing, man hating, misandrist ways, no. Then they are part of the other camp. Again, that's another thing. I've tried to avoid us versus them terminology, combat and based terminology, but that's what this is. These women are the enemies of life itself. They are the enemies of human life. And I got to specify human life. As many people have pointed out, if this woman had strangled 3 puppies, they would despise her. It was, 3 babies? Oh, that's fine. This is evil that's been unmasked. It's murderous, homicidal, human-hating evil. There's no place for being nice to it. Not anymore. Look, we've always been at war. Ever since I started doing this, it's been a war, but it's been a war of ideas. At this point, it's no longer a war of ideas. No, it's a war for the lives of our children. Very literally, that's not hyperbole. I actually don't have this here, but let's see if we can find some. Oh yeah, this. Look at these rows of women who are turning out in support of this woman. Yeah. These people can vote. Just a reminder. Yeah, time to set the feelings almost aside entirely at this point. Yeah. Maybe it's just feminist women? Okay, I'm glad you brought this up. Tradcon saying it's a liberal woman's problem. Angry? Yes. Okay, bunch of people bringing this up. We need to land on this for a second. Oh, we got a bunch of super chats coming in. Bullstruck, I've been considering at what point do you put someone's fate in God's hands and stop working with them based off their mentality? When one views humans as a clump of cells, what can you do? Yeah. There's precedent for that in scripture. If you go through the steps of church discipline and people refuse to repent, part of what you do, the last step is you hand them over to Satan. You cast them out of the community and hand them over to have their soul sifted by Satan. It's not a kind thing. It is kind. It's not a nice, friendly thing to do. But it's what you do. You do not allow that kind of hypocrisy into a Christian community. You don't tolerate it. You get rid of this sin as quickly as you possibly can. You get rid of the evil from among you so that it doesn't spread. That was something that the early church was very aware of and worked very hard to keep clean. They were very aware that sin spreads if you allow it in your community, if you tolerate it. We've lost that entirely. We tolerate this so much in our Christian communities. Aztec, yeah, we've been at war since the garden. Yeah. Yep. Genesis 3:6. Her desire will be to usurp the man. Usurp her husband. That's what we're fighting against right now. This is, yeah. Rational trucker. Feminism is like the Borg. They're relentless and cannot be reasoned with. Fight back or be assimilated. Yeah? Yeah, this is no longer just a war of ideas. This is a war for our lives. You cannot be nice in that kind of war. But anyways, getting back to what some of the guys were saying about, yeah, TradCon's saying it's a liberal woman's problem. You've been seeing this already. Like hints at this. Michael Knowles was saying, oh yeah, you need to ask your girlfriend if she supports Lindsay Clancy, and if she does, there should be a U-shaped hole in the wall. 3 seconds later, got it. Cool. That's correct, but what TradCons are not grappling with, what they're not acknowledging, is that many of these women are conservative. As these women have taken their masks off, what you will find very consistently is that this is not an issue of politics. Women are not doing this based on their politics. They're doing this based on their emotions. That is the dividing line. How do you feel about your kids? How do you feel about your husband? Because a lot of this, there's so much. And again, one of the reasons why I say that this is connected to how these women feel about their husbands, they despise their babies because they despise their husbands. Part of the reason why I say that is because so many of these women keep saying, he must have done it. I can tell just by looking at him that he's evil. They want to see evil in the husband. They want to see it so badly. Do not try to tell me that that's anything other than a projection. That's how they feel about the men in their life. They despise their own husbands, and they're projecting that and assuming, because they think their husband is this terrible, awful human being, probably because their own therapist told them so. And so did social media. And so did their own gut. There's the simple fact that they feel like they married down, whatever it may be, a whole cocktail of reasons. They despise their husband. And so they project that onto this situation and go, man, she could only have been feeling this way about her kids if her husband was a terrible, awful man. If her husband was the kind of man I think my husband is. Convince me that that's not what's going on there. Why else would all of these women why else would there be such a strong correlation between women who they're just so distraught about the fact that they have a child and that it's difficult sometimes to raise a child? Why does that correlate so strongly with women who see guilt in the husband? Why else? It's because they despise their own husbands. And as these women's masks have come off, it has revealed that this is a bipartisan issue. This is not a left versus right issue. And even to the degree that it is, I'm sure more of these women in this group are liberals than conservatives. But you have to remember there are far more liberal women today than there are conservative women. So you have a supply side issue, conservatives, if you want to say our team is the good one. But the other part of it is no. We've heard a lot of conservative women defending this stuff. And we'll look at some of that in a second. There was, my wife had a friend my wife was going off on social media about how terrible this is. And one of her friends from our very conservative church, very conservative couple, this gal messaged her and saying, hey, I get it, but you should really tone it down. Because, yeah, I'm upset about it too, because I have a kid now too. And so, yeah, this is really distressing. But at the same time, you know, we need to make sure that we are not the ones who cast the first stone. You know, we need to not be judging Lindsay. Completely skipping the fact that we're not judging Lindsay. This isn't about Lindsay. Lindsay will get what she deserves. I'm confident of that. At least I hope she will. No, the people we're judging, these women right here, lining up in support, saying, same, Lindsay, whose kids are in current, present, real danger. This isn't about being judgmental of these women. It's about ending whatever this is so that their kids can be safe. It's not about judgment. It's about fighting a battle for these kids' lives. But there's still these conservative women who are just like, hey, no, we need to tone it down. Tomi Lahren being another example. This is not a left versus right issue. This is a woman issue. This is a woman who have accountability and good upbringing in their life and are happy and content with the man that they're with, versus women who were not raised well, are not content with the man that they have or the kids that they have terrible accountability structures in their life. They say this and they do this stuff because they've been getting away with it their whole life. They've been rewarded for it their whole life by social media. That's the divide, if there is any. It has nothing to do with conservative versus liberal. And there are plenty of conservative women on social media drinking the same Kool-Aid as all the rest of these women. And this is it. This is exposing that. All of these women are taking their masks off at the same time, and we're finding that, oh, there's a bunch on both sides of the political aisle. Weird, crazy. Now, I will say I'm actually kind of happy that it happened this way. I'm disgusted about the situation, but I am happy that these women are taking their masks off in this way and doing exactly this, because this is one of the only things that gives me any hope, is that there are now some conservative commentators, men, who are starting to be like, hey, wait a second, like Aaron McIntyre and John Doyle from The Blaze. There's a couple of other guys who, there was another post that I replied to here on Twitter. There's a guy who's basically saying, hey, why are there so few conservative commentators calling out the radicalization of young women? They're starting to notice it. This had to happen this way because it had to be kids. It sucks. It's terrible. But we've been trying to say for a long time that women do not have accountability and they desperately need it. And without it, they drift and they become the worst possible versions of themselves. And I hadn't even thought of this as being a possible outcome to that. That was not a part of what was in my mind as I've been saying this for the last couple of years. It's worse than even I thought when you just let women go without accountability. And I've been banging the drum for accountability and being told, no, we need to deflect attention back over to the men. They're the ones that are the leaders, supposedly, as if we'd let them. And they're the ones who are responsible for everything, so they need to be the ones who take up all the accountability. The women shift attention away from them. TradCon's been saying that over and over and over for ages. Now, they can't avoid it. These women did the one thing that conservative men can't stand. They attacked kids. I know the stereotype is that women are the ones who are they love kids so much. You have not seen true rage until you've seen a conservative Papa Bear go off when he sees kids in danger. These TradCons needed to see women take their mask off like this in order for us to get to any place where now I'm starting to see Matt Walsh and John Doyle and all of these guys posting stuff that I've been saying for years. Now they're starting to. They're starting to move that direction because they're starting to realize we can't live without it. women can't go on without accountability and restrictions in their lives. They cannot be totally unrestrained. They cannot handle total freedom. They just can't. The only thing that would wake them up to that is seeing these women kill kids. It's the only thing that could have woken them up. And so that gives me hope that maybe some of these men might start to put their foot in the ground and say, no, we're stopping here. We're turning this around. You know what? I used to think that we could just blame men for this. That was a mistake. Because they're starting to. They're starting to see that we were right. Again, whatever team it is that I'm on here, they're starting to see that we were right about this. And so I'm hopeful that maybe some of these guys might actually put their back into it, get to work fixing this stuff so that we don't have to go through one of the worst collapses in human history and try to wait it out and get to the other side of that before we have any chance of anyone having a decent, normal life again. Maybe they'll actually get to work on this so that instead of delaying the collapse and so that the rubber band stretches more and more and it gets worse and worse, it'll be worse and worse when it snaps. Maybe they can actually create something that can protect us through that collapse. Maybe they'll actually help us in that goal and that endeavor that we have to do that. Maybe. That's my hope. But it had to be this. It had to be kids. Nothing else would have convinced them that women could be this way. They are so desperately in love with women and so romantically captured by them. There was nothing else that could have convinced these men, no, we need to start restricting women, holding them accountable. The only thing that's stronger than their white knight desire to rescue a woman is their paternal instinct to protect kids. And these women just cross that boundary. This, I hope, is a watershed moment that signals a turnaround. I hope. Okay, sorry, I've been missing some of the super chats. Let's get to them. Ted Lehman, look up Andrea Yates drowned her kids in 2001. Yeah, I saw that one. That one popped up again on my Twitter feed. The press and a large number of women showed up in her favor without social media. Long-term problem. This has been going on for a long time. It's just that, yes, conservatives especially have been able to ignore this problem because there wasn't social media for that kind of thing to go viral. It got buried fairly quickly. If you weren't in tune with the couple of tabloids and maybe, a few news agencies that put it out there, you could ignore it. And you could also pretend that that was just an isolated incident. That's just one crazy woman. That's not what most women are like. Most women aren't having these feelings. Most women don't despise their husbands and their kids. That's just an outlier. No, the fact that we have social media and these women showing up to massive rallies, and social media inflames it because now you can see the millions of views and hundreds of thousands of likes on each one of these videos where women are saying, same, Lindsay. Yeah, social media is helping us a lot right now. Ray, my father thinks the Constitution won't be held up for much longer because we're no longer a Christian nation. There's a possibility that this time around the cycle, as we get to the crisis point, whatever the crisis looks like, we might do some reformation to our political structures. Almost certainly we will. It's entirely possible we could go one of two directions, become a far more Christian nation or a far less Christian nation. Let's see what else. Zyke, don't worry. I'm sure we as a society will just forget all about this week and go right back to blaming the young men who just want to praise the Lord and the game cartridge and pass the game cartridge. Yeah. There's a definite push for that, and we'll get to some of that in just a second. There is already a push. Well, and it's primarily coming from women. It isn't landing quite as well with the conservative, like I said, the Papa Bears. It's not quite landing as well as it has in times past. Usually the women say, hey, no, you need to leave us ladies alone. And the conservative guys go, oh, we got to step in and rescue these poor girls. That's not happening this time. I haven't seen nearly as much of that. In fact, it's been quite the opposite. There have been some TradCon guys, like again, Michael Knowles, who were trying to quarantine it and say this is a left issue. But not nearly as many as in the past. That is starting to break. They're starting to break ranks on that particular view. There's some that are really desperately clinging to this idea that it's an us versus them. It's liberal versus conservative. Only conservative or only liberal women are like this. And others are starting to see, no, that is a completely untenable position. That is just not matching what our eyes are telling us. We need to do something about this. Something is shifting. Something is changing. And that's part of what makes me hopeful about this situation. Johnny Blonde, I've been saying it for a while, but it's looking like we really need a second Reformation. Yeah, I agree, man. Either a second Reformation or a reclamation, like we're trying to do, whatever we want to call it, something has to give. Something has got to change. Going on the way that we currently are is not going to work. It just isn't. Yeah. According to Hannah Spear, who's a YouTuber and psychologist lady, psychosis shows up within 3 weeks of delivery. So no, Lindsay Clancy can't use postpartum psychosis as an excuse. Interesting point. That's kind of what we were saying earlier. Grant Hubner, the sign was abortion womb to tomb. Yeah. Well, that's part of it. That's okay. This I think is what really changed it. This moment is what changed that sort of in versus out group mentality that some of these conservative commentators had. They used to be able to make it all about abortion and say, well, you know, it's just liberal women that want to have abortions. Conservative women don't. They're against it. They're pro-life. And so they used to be able to very comfortably quarantine off the evil of child murder. But now that conservative women are starting to defend Lindsay, they're starting to see, whoa, no, this same thing is happening with our women too? Maybe when women have a sinful nature that drives them to specific kinds of sin and evil. And it exists in those women regardless of whether they're conservative or liberal. And we need to do everything we can to restrain, restrict, and hold accountable that sinful flesh and evil within her. Instead of just assuming that it's gone the moment she becomes a Christian and or conservative. They're starting to see little bits and pieces of that. Black Raptor realized the only reason it was a crime for her to do what she did to her youngest was because she did it to them then and not a year earlier. Yeah. Yeah, again, yeah, it's the abortion thing. It wouldn't have been a crime, yeah, because he was 8 months old. Yeah, if she had done that a year prior, not a crime. It's a right. She needs a right. Someone who pointed out, women have more rights to end their children's lives than men do to protect their children's lives. It's disgusting. When I say slime-covered foids, that's what I mean. It's disgusting. You're done being nice. I'm done being gracious about this murderous evil that has overtaken these women. How about I be nice to the kids that are in danger? Which, by the way, somebody else pointed out, and I thought this was a really good point. I think it was Brian Sauvé. I might have this post somewhere. Maybe I have it saved. people being like, Taliban's always been right. Yeah, people are going to say that now. These women need to have their phones taken away. Yeah. Oh yeah, all these, have you seen this? There's a new trend of women saying, posting before and after pictures from when they were party girl whores versus now when they have kids. And they're like, I lost my spark after I had a baby. Yeah, these women need to have their phones taken away. This has been going around, this clip. This guy giving a woman a spanking, and she's like, it means you love her. She's like, wait a second, it does? Yeah. Guys, it's like, guys need to get back to that. Anyways, yeah, okay, this is an interesting one. Maybe, yeah, we'll see. We'll scroll our way through and see if we find it. Now, if you're a conservative man that just recently started using Twitter, let me educate you because I've been on this app for a long time. Back in the day, there was a female conservative influencer. Name is Laura Southern. I remember her. She had a massive following on Twitter and was on all the podcasts. Long story short, she turned out to have been a total fraud and a grifter, and there were many other such cases of female conservative influencers that were exposed as frauds, just like her. You would think that conservative men would learn to stop listening to women, but they are so used to women disagreeing with them, their political opinions, that they have a vulnerability for any women who pretend to agree with them. Well, yeah, and guys are also conditioned from the time that they're born, since they're raised primarily by their mothers and schooled by female school teachers. They're conditioned to seek the approval of women. So any woman who seems to give approval to your viewpoints on things, it's just a little fish hook that snags these guys. Oh yeah, this was a part of it. We mentioned this. Did you notice how all these TikTok videos of women filming themselves crying, screaming, and having full-on meltdowns about how hard motherhood is always seem to be the women who are financially comfortable, living in nice houses, wearing nice clothes with nice furniture and everything they need? Yeah. Let's see here. Yeah, this was interesting. Number of children killed by their mother, their father. It's not close. And I don't think this includes abortions. Oh yeah. And then there's this woman. Yeah. I don't see it. Anyways, what was I thinking of? Oh yeah, there's a post by Brian Sauvé. Where he's basically saying, look, at this point, it doesn't matter how women feel. I'm paraphrasing him, but basically, and women have at this point, well, I'll say it in my own words. Women at this point have proven themselves to be completely unreasonable. We've been trying to reason with them for a long time, and that is not working. They do not respond to rationale and logic. They just go Tommy Loren and give you the face. Act all, I'm so hurt. Or they act like you're a despicable person for saying that, when you try to just hit them with facts and logic and reason. No. The thing that women respond to is shame. Women don't respond when you logic them, generally speaking. This is a generality. They don't respond to that. They respond to social pressure. So the way out of this is to start using social pressure. It needs to come from both men and other women. Men and women need to start shaming women who act and defend evil. Make fun of them. Be a little bit mean to them. Because they are refusing to respond to anything else, and they have gotten to a place where they're murderous. Which is worse? Being a little bit of a jerk sometimes to a woman, or her ending her kid's life, or just straight up making her, even if they don't do that, making their kids feel worthless and unwanted. Which is worse? No, I think it's pretty clear. The better option is to start being a little bit of a jerk sometimes. Shame women for doing shameful things. Make shame great again. Yeah, Rolla said women wouldn't do that if it were dogs. Yeah, they wouldn't be. Yeah, exactly. They would. Yeah, like we mentioned that. Yeah, they wouldn't be protecting these women. They wouldn't be all in if it was dogs. We saw what happened with Hassan when everybody, it's like, hey, he's shocking Kaya, and they despise him. Immediately jump on him. No. Strangle your kid? Nah, that's fine, I guess. Johnny Blonde, notice how for the last decades, women have been defending death of children in the womb. Now we are seeing defense of death outside the womb. I wonder what the witches occultists are planning with this. Yeah. That has been another interesting feature of this. There has been a lot of occult influences on this. Let me see. I had one where these women... Oh, shoot. Did I lose it? There's one where there's a bunch of women... this one. Lindsay Clancy supporters are now analyzing court audio recordings for signs of, quote, divine feminine energy in waveforms to confirm her innocence. I think we can finally agree now that the Salem witch trials were totally justified. Well, possibly. But yeah, these women are... So, there's a bunch of clips out there of what these women who call themselves... like... astrological forensic experts or something like that. Forensic astrologists or something like that. Which is a ridiculous term to start with. It's just pure lunacy. And then they come on and they have this very expert-ish tone. They act as if they're like this mega expert on like they have this tone of voice like they're a college professor giving their highly authoritative analysis of the situation. And it's just like they're referencing this astrology chart and how all of the moon and sun alignments create all of these different energy waves and stuff. This is so heavily occultic. And you would be shocked again how many conservative and Christian women believe in that stuff and are into it. Or at least don't condemn it. They just sort of accept it and go, hey, that's interesting. Wonder what the witches and occultists are planning with this. Well, what they're planning is power. The reason why women gravitate towards that stuff is it gives them exactly what they are affecting in their voice. Power and authority. They go to this occult stuff because they're trying to tap into a higher power than the power they have within their own body. One of the reasons why women love occult stuff so much is because they are aware that they live in the weaker vessel. They do not have power in the same way that men do. They exist in a weaker state than men do. They cannot have equal power to men, and they know it. They have lots of influence, but they do not have power, like that they can enforce. And so they look to the supernatural for balance or supremacy in this case. They look to the occult and to supernatural forces to give them power so that they can surpass men. Again, Genesis 3:6, her desire will be to usurp you. Let me look at this. NET Bible. Let's see. Where's the NET Bible? NET has probably the best translation of this particular verse. I believe it's Genesis 3:6. No, it was. It's not. I've been given the wrong reference this whole time. Oh no, it is 3. It's 16. Why did I think I was wrong when I said that? I said 3:16 for a while, and then I thought I was wrong about it, and then I started going to 6, and it turns out 6 was wrong. So now I was right in the beginning. To the woman, he said, "I will greatly increase your labor pains. With pain, you will give birth to children. You will want to control your husband." but he will dominate you. Yeah. That's what it is. It's about power. They want they know that they don't have the power within their own weaker vessel to enforce their will. They want some way to control the world around them, to control their husbands, to usurp male power. So they go to the occult. That's why it's always witches, never wizards. That's why wizards are such a they're more of a fantastical thing, whereas witches are things that exist in real life far more commonly. I've met several witches in my lifetime. Never met a wizard. Never met a man that claimed to actually be able to be in touch with magical spiritual forces like that, let alone able to control them. Zyke, this is a watershed moment. We should all remember this and keep track of who says what. They're doing that to us already, I guarantee you. If you don't do it, they are already doing it to you. So, yeah. Let's see how many conservative talking heads either keep quiet or actively downplay all this. Yeah. I have been impressed with the guys from The Blaze, and there's a couple of other conservative commentators I've seen that I've been impressed with their handling of it because it is not what I would have expected. It has been very forcefully anti-BS. Which is why y'all are saying like, oh, well, Nick Freitas has joined up with The Blaze and I'm worried about that. I am not worried about him joining up with The Blaze. I'm nowhere near as concerned about those guys as I am with his connections to TPUSA. Like we've said, they appear to be very much a femcon factory. But yeah, the Blaze guys have been responding to this fairly well. They don't seem to understand why guys are frustrated that they're late to the party, and they don't seem to understand why other conservative commentators aren't coming with them on it a lot of the time. But some guys like them are starting to push back, and I think that's encouraging. Black Raptor, they're for the right to vote, and their collective biggest issue they fight for is the game ending of kids. Yeah. Yeah, that's the chart, and I don't know if I have that chart up in here somewhere. But yes, that's all. That's the thing. Women's biggest voting issue. Men's biggest voting issue is the economy. Men want to be able to provide for themselves, for their families, for their wives, for their kids. It's by far and away their biggest voting issue. Women, it's killing their kids. And it's not close. It is the biggest issue for them. Not even close. Yeah. And we're supposed to believe that, oh, well, you know, we should be listening to women and we need to court their opinions so that we can keep getting their votes. Women are proving right now that the overwhelming majority of them are not fit to teach, correct, lead, or decide anything for anyone else. They're not qualified to correct others on their behavior. They're not qualified to teach others God's way. They're not qualified to lead in any capacity over other, especially not over men. And especially not without male oversight. They're absolutely not qualified to lead in those capacities without male oversight. Like strict male oversight. Society reviews, women want to be married, few want to be a wife. Yeah. And once they discover that after they get married, they discover, wait a second, I just wanted to have the wedding and have the thing and have the title of wife. Now I actually have to be a wife. And I'm stuck for the rest of my life with this guy. And I really feel like I could have done better than him. Yeah. It's rough. It's really rough. We're finding out what happens when these women get the life that they thought they wanted, but not the man that they wanted. They rebel against him and that life in every way they can. Aztec. This goes to what Heroes Forge talks about with the feminization of modern church and stripping men of authority, strength of purpose. Exactly, yeah. He and I have been talking in the same kind of directions ever since he came onto the scene. With no, quote, warriors to defend, the serpent seed spreads, yeah. That is what we are seeing right now. That's a good way to put it. The serpent's seed is spreading. Yeah. The evil is spreading. FYI, Bob, did you see the Spider-Man where Jean Grey did evil and never held accountable, but they try to garner sympathy and fast forward Clancy. Yeah. Well, that's not even the first one of those. I didn't see that Spider-Man. I did see WandaVision and Doctor Strange Mom, Multiverse of Madness, where Wanda did some very despicable evil things, held people captive, and yeah, in the movie she does some really, she kills a bunch of people who did not deserve to die. In the show, they're just like, these people will never know what you sacrificed. They're saying that to a woman who held all of those people, these people, hostage for who knows how long, against their will, and these people hate it. They're terrified. They want out. But they won't know what you sacrificed by letting them go free. Yeah. What happens to women when all of your media paints women as angels who can do no wrong even when they're the villain of the story? What happens to women's perception of themselves? Right? And then in Doctor Strange, she's just murdering. She murders a bunch of the monks at Kamar-Taj as they try to defend against her attack in all sorts of horrific ways. He goes to other universes, murders the other universe's Avengers in horrific ways. The Black Bolt guy, she seals off his mouth so that his yell like reflects back and explodes his brain. And I'm supposed to believe that this woman is actually the hero of the movie by the end of it. Never an ounce of accountability, never an acknowledgement that the murders she committed were evil. No consequences for it. And you think women see that in the media and they don't think to themselves, wow, okay, I guess we can really get away with whatever we want. I guess it really is wrong for men to be even a little bit mean to us when we do evil. Sorry, not mean, harsh. Harsh is the better word. That's what I should be using. We need to be harsh. Be harsh on evil. No more nice guy Christianity. When you see evil, shame it and be harsh on it. Be stern about it. Because these women have been seeing their whole lives that, no, it's actually not wrong for me to do these things because I'm a woman. Every bit of media that I've ingested my entire life has told me that, no, this is right for me to do. This is good. That's fine. I will actually, you know what? I might be temporarily bad for a little bit, but by the end of the story, I'm going to be the hero regardless. I don't need to actually repent. I don't need to, I shouldn't experience any consequences. That would be wrong. They're actually thinking that. Yeah, FYI, Bob, don't forget about the Falcon where the female terrorist is garnering sympathy as well. Yeah. Yeah, the redheaded girl. Who kills a bunch of people. And like she blows up a bunch of stuff. Kills people. And by the end of it, Captain Black Falcon America is lecturing the senator. You need to do better, Senator. On behalf of this terrorist, Ginger? What are we doing? Sympathy for a terrorist, but because it's a woman. Yeah. With these movies, it's so predictable. You can tell who is never going to be called to account for their behavior simply by their gender. And their skin color to a lesser degree, but it's mostly about gender. A ballpark Ronan. What was Adam's first sin? Genesis 3:17. And unto Adam he said, because thou hast hearkened unto the voice of thy wife. He listened to his wife, yeah. Yep. It's right there. Because you obeyed your wife and ate the tree that you commanded. That one little half of a sentence has been skipped over my entire Christian life. I'm realizing in this moment, and I'm becoming very frustrated as I am, I'm realizing that the conservative Christian push for the man to be the servant leader of his house and to defer to his wife in all matters in which he possibly can is actually genuinely evil. It is the first thing that men got wrong. Obeying their wives instead of God. We've reframed everything in Christian community, in Christian marriage. We've completely flipped it around and said, no, you as a man must be a servant leader to your wife. You must serve her, take care of whatever needs she has, physical or emotional. Whatever she wants, you must do your best to provide it. You must defer to her as often as possible, or else you're an abusive, controlling husband. No. No, the first mistake that men made was obeying their wife instead of God. That's a good catch. It's a good point. Oh, yeah. A lot of female artists make videos about killing men. It's disturbing. Yeah. You look at the Femisphere, and not just what women talk about in their podcasts, you listen to the music they make. They are vicious towards men in it. You want to think that your good Christian conservative girlies aren't hearing this stuff and being affected by it, even if secondhand. Secondhand Femisphere inhalation causes the feminist cancer almost as much at this point. This stuff is so potent. Yet, we have no interest in protecting women from that stuff, shielding them from that cancer. We wouldn't want to step on their agency. Yeah, financial abuse equals not purchasing every whim until bankruptcy, yeah. Anyways, let's continue. Where were we? So people pushing back on Tomi Lahren. Lauren Chen. Tomi Lahren is worried about that the right wing will alienate young women by criticizing them, but Tomi is apparently not worried about alienating men with her criticism. Too many young men want to DoorDash. Mama's basement. Come on, let's watch this. Play.
It's a major problem. And you know, Speaker Johnson has been talking about those maybe deadbeat folks that are on Medicaid, and maybe some of those folks are the stay-at-home sons. We don't know. But I'll tell you this, leave it to Gen Z to rebrand laziness and social awkwardness as something cutesy, like a stay-at-home son. They did much the same thing with quiet quitting, where you can go to work and do less, and if you call it quiet quitting, it's somehow better. But Laura, I gotta tell you, this is also a big problem when it comes to, I think, declining birth rates, people not getting married and having children. You know, that's a big problem. They blame it on women. Well, look at what young women have to choose from. The pickings are slim. Yes, we might have a feminism problem in America, but it's the feminization of men. There are a lot of young women out there that want to get married. They want to have kids. They want to have stable families. But there are a lot of young men out there who want to live in mama's basement. And
so many assumptions built into that. So many. There's that one video been going around of that, I don't know, girl boss Nepo baby who's complaining about how guys aren't getting into the workforce anymore. Everybody has been rightly responding to that. You do realize that the vast majority, like something over 90% of jobs that have been created over the last couple of years have gone to women instead of men. DEI hiring practices have basically kicked men out of the workforce. All of the best paying jobs out there now go to women. Women in their 20s out-earn men in their 20s. And there was one that I responded to. This one woman was talking about how, yeah, the rise of the stay-at-home boyfriend or the stay-at-home son and all of that. And she said, well, men out-earn women overall. In fact, maybe I can find that post. Let's see here. Yeah, here it is. Okay, interesting. Okay, so Pew Research found that that 20% of men ages 25 to 34 live in parents' homes versus 15% of women. So more women have moved out, slightly more. Within that 25 to 34 age group, men have higher median earnings overall than the women there's living at home with mommy. I actually don't think that that's accurate, but we'll come back to that. Why are more women courageous and likely to step out into adulthood, and even though they have less likely to afford living on their own than men? Is this just another example of how women are outpacing men and are more developed as adults? Well, first of all, she's not actually quite accurate about this. Maybe by shifting the age bracket up 5 years, it might be slightly, that men might make slightly more median. Maybe. I don't think that, if that might be out of date though. She might be referencing out of date numbers, because I do know for sure in the 20 to 30 age bracket, women out earn men. They do. It's backwards of what she's claiming here. And so what I said there is, what I responded with is keyword there, overall. In that age range, women actually make more than men, and they receive far more in government handouts. As we looked at on one of my reaction videos on, I think that's on the, that might be either a members only video or it's over on the second channel. In other words, men make less while paying more in taxes. Women make more while receiving those taxes. Of course, women can move out sooner. Tommy's not thinking of that. She's not thinking about how women are net receivers of tax benefits while men typically pay more, especially in that age range. And men make less. They're not even getting the jobs to begin with. There's a stat that's been going around that says there are more payrolled women than and there are more women in payroll positions than there are men. And that's exactly what that post I mentioned earlier from the Nepo girl. She was talking about that. She's like, this is the problem, guys. They're just too lazy. They're getting back. They need to get back into the workforce. Roll up their sleeves and get back to work. No, you ran them out. You systematically removed them from the workforce. You're not going to address that? You're just going to pretend like you didn't do that to them, Tommy? You're just going to castigate the guys for being lazy? Are you scared of losing those guys' votes? I can't be mean to these people because can't be mean to the guys because I don't want to lose their votes. We're going to alienate the guys. No, you don't care. You care about this has nothing to do with votes. Lauren's right. This has to do with accountability. You don't want any focus to be put on women for what they did. You don't want the accountability to go to the women and the men who listened to them and enforced their will. The women who, Genesis 3:17, obeyed, or the men who, Genesis 3:17, obeyed their wives. You don't want accountability to go to them because you don't want the status quo to actually change. You wanted to remain in this state where girls like you can be girl bosses and become wealthy entrepreneurs and all of that. You don't want that status quo to change. You want to simultaneously be above men yourself, but then have men raise themselves above you somehow. It doesn't make any sense. FYI, Bob, interesting. Fun fact, Tomi Lahren was fired from The Blaze after exposing herself for being pro unaliving of babies due to a comment she made on The View. Interesting. Big if true. W Blaze for firing her then. Do modern women need to lower our standards because young men are immature and coddled? Yeah, but the alienation. We can't make fun of girl bosses or women who don't want to vote for us. Yeah. 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 Tomi Lahren is a feminist masquerading as conservative. Yes, she is. Oh, yeah, I remember this. I remember when this went around. Tomi Lahren in rant on men are trash in the summer of canceling boys. Yep, I remember that. Tommy, we didn't forget. Black Raptor, remember every time they blind test resumes, the men far outperform women. Men are strapped with 100-pound weights and then told to run 100 meters while women start at the 90-meter line. Yeah, without the weights. Yeah. Men, yours is to give and ours is to take. What's so hard about this? Yeah. Totally unbiased history. It's like when your parents tell you to let your sister win. And then they cheer harder for you or for her. Yeah. They cheer harder for her than for you. Yeah. A lot of this is a premise issue, as we've been talking about for a long time. A lot of parents were captured by this idea that people need to have power in order to be valuable, and so they got scared when they started having daughters. They were scared that their daughters were going to be outpaced by the boys. So they started nerfing their boys as they raised them and elevating their girls. Because they realized very quickly, very intuitively, that if they just let things go, yeah, the boys are going to win. They're going to outcompete the girls. They just will. But they thought, I don't want my poor little daughter to get left behind. I can't let that happen. So they did everything they could to nerf the boys. Yeah. Bullshark, it's almost like women try the bust the balls routine like men do to other men, only it falls flat because of who it's coming from. Interesting, yeah. That's an interesting way to put it. Yeah. It's like they think they can get away with the, hey, pick yourself up, man. Come on, dude. Be a man. And the guys are just like, I'm sorry. You do not have gonads. You do not get to tell me how to be a man or what a man is. You do not get to call me less than a man as someone who's not a man yourself. Yeah, that's a good point. And Rachel Wilson calling this one out. Yeah, same thing. We have to give insane women who support the murder of babies and children whatever they want, or they'll vote Democrat. Oh no. No, we have to end universal suffrage because it results in being ruled by the most stupid and malevolent majority. Base Rachel. Yeah, that's the thing that Tomi Lahren and a lot of conservatives of her ilk, a lot of white knight conservatives don't get. And they won't get until we defeat the power premise. As long as women vote, they will vote for what they are currently voting for, and you will have what you currently have. They will vote for complete removal of all restrictions and all accountability. They will vote for all resources to flow from men to them without having to give anything in return. The problem isn't how many votes we've courted among the female population. The problem is that women are voting. And it will not change as long as women vote. It will not. And the number of women that I've seen waking up to that fact is encouraging. There's a number of women who are starting to go, wow, shoot. If this is what women voting means, if I have to watch them kill their kids and get away with it, if I have to watch the abortion thing and open borders and all of this stuff, like murderers and apists being flooded into our countries because that's what women vote for, I will happily give up my right to vote if we can get rid of that stuff, if that's what it means. There are women starting to say that. But again, of course, you can't. Someday, somebody somewhere is going to clip this and say, look at, see, he wants to oppress women by taking away their right to vote. It's not oppressive at all. What's oppressive is the things these women are voting for. That's not just oppressive, it's homicidal what these women are voting for. Again, they're mask off at this point, proving that they are not fit to lead. They are not fit to govern the future of our nation. They're not fit to decide our nation's course. By and large. Some might be sure. Yeah, I'm sure there's exceptions. There always are. But yeah, this is not about women's worth or value, because you don't get your value from power or influence or any of those things, or status, achievements, your ability to vote. That has nothing to do with your dignity as a person. Nothing at all. Your value comes from your Creator, your relationship to Him. That is it. That's where your worth as a person comes. That's where your joy is. That's where your hope should be. Which, by the way, is why, as women have gotten more power and more of all of these things that they've asked for, they've only gotten more and more miserable. It's because they placed their value in something that could never satisfy them, in something that took them away from the only source of satisfaction available to them. It took them away from their Creator. It did not bring them closer to Him. As they got more power, they went deeper and deeper into trying to satisfy their own flesh. As they shook off all restrictions for their behavior, as they demonized all accountability for their behavior and their attitudes, they gravitated more and more towards their sinful flesh and more away from their Creator and their only source of life and joy and peace and hope. And now they're miserable, because they're farther from their God. So strangely enough, the only way to rescue these women is to take away the thing they think they need in order to be safe, valuable, and happy. You have to take away the thing they think they need to be satisfied in life so that they actually can be satisfied in life. So no, I will not hear anyone try to tell me that I'm oppressive to women by advocating what I do. No. At this point, we are trying to rescue women and their children from themselves. That's what we're after. And we should not shut up or be nice about it until we achieve it. Yeah, this is interesting. Tommy Loren doesn't even realize her post is a multi-layered proof as to why women had so many restrictions all over the world. Her not seeing this is already 3 layers deep. Yeah, exactly. And I've been seeing this go around for a while. It's like, yeah, if these women are that crazy, then courting their vote is not the right decision. What you're actually doing by acknowledging that they're that far off is you're acknowledging that they shouldn't have that right to vote in the first place. She doesn't, like, this has been a very common thread that's been going around. Here's Matt Walsh responding to another one, Amanda Claypool. Let's read her post first. In 1 week, she's talking to Matt Walsh. This has been going back and forth. Starts with Matt saying, the father in this case is now in prison for the rest of his life, and as far as I'm concerned, should be executed. Fair. Actually has a much more convincing insanity defense than Lindsay Clancy. He killed his sons because he believed God wanted him to do it, not something Lindsay ever claimed. Hearing voices may be similar, I don't know. You be the judge. When the cops arrived, he was rambling incoherently, something not going on with Lindsay, and confessed to the crimes on the basis that he was doing what God wanted. He did not magically snap in and out of psychosis. Yeah, Lindsay did kind of snap in and out of it, very conveniently. He was still clearly psychotic when the police questioned him, and you'll notice not a single woman on TikTok or anywhere else is expressing a sympathy for this guy. And certainly no men are rallying to his defense either. That's another important point. All of the men who are being held accountable for their crimes today, you don't see men out there cheering for him, demanding justice for Tate or this guy or whoever it is when they get hauled off to jail. We're not the same. And yet you'll notice that not a single woman on TikTok or anywhere else has expressed any sympathy for this guy. And certainly no men are rallying to his defense either. He went to prison as he should, with no fanfare or fan clubs. That's because Clancy's female defenders don't actually care about the mental health or postpartum depression or anything else. They simply think that it's okay for women, and only women, to kill their kids. That's all. Amanda Claypool responds, in 1 week, you single-handedly alienated the centrist female vote. If the centrist females feel the need to defend a child murderer, first of all, they should not be able to call themselves centrists. Second of all, they should not be allowed to vote. Rather than be humbled and acknowledged that not all women in the internet are Lindsay Clancy supporting lunatics, you're doubling down. What? No, he is talking about Lindsay Clancy supporters. I don't know why she says that he's not. When we don't show up in November and DSA takes foothold in the Congress, you'll know why. This logic is stunningly incoherent. But anyways, then Matt responds to her. If you could be persuaded to not vote because some commentator who isn't even running for office expressed opinions that made you sad, then the fault is entirely your own. You're an absurd, shallow narcissist. Oof. And it isn't my job or anyone else's to cater to you, so go ahead and stay home and hand the country over to socialists if that's what you want to do. But don't try to offload the responsibility for that decision to me. I don't even know you or have anything to do with you. You're an adult. Act like it. Or act like a ridiculous child. Up to you. Leave me out of it. This is the kind of response that guys need to be having to this type of stuff. Yeah, gaslighting is real, yeah. Zyke, I'm past the point of caring. If they cry, you're oppressing me, you pull a Walter White, look him in the eye, say, you're damn right. Look, if that's the options that are on the table, absolute destruction of the West, killing of kids, women trying to justify even the worst behaviors that they could possibly ever do, as someone pointed out a while back, a little while ago, if they can justify themselves doing this, what can they be held accountable for? Right, so if our choices are between the supposed oppression of women by placing restrictions and accountability on their bad behavior versus allowing things to continue on and continue to get worse as they are. I'll take the oppression. Call me the bad guy. I will become the villain if I have to. If that's what it takes to save these kids, save these women from themselves, save our country, save our people. Fine, I'll be the bad guy. I'll be the villain. The shame button doesn't work on us anymore. As I say all the time. That's one of my favorite responses now on Twitter is I will get women firing back at me, calling me all kinds of names and trying to shame me for my positions. They never bring logic or reason or evidence or scripture or any of it. They just, you're a bad person type of shaming. And what I always say is, sorry, the shame button doesn't work on us anymore. Come back when you have logic. And they never do. Never. Shame button doesn't work anymore. We're done with that. Totally unbiased. A great example of how far left the Overton window has moved. A centrist woman thinks holding women accountable under any circumstances is too extreme. Exactly. That's what this woman doesn't seem to get that she's saying is, if a centrist woman believes that Matt is wrong for calling women out on supporting Lindsay Clancy, then that means the majority of women support Lindsay Clancy. Again, think of that logically. If the center supports her, and that means everyone left of her also probably supports her as well. Even though, as we've seen, this isn't really a left versus right issue. If the center supports her, then the majority do. And at that point, there is no issue that women can't hold hostage through their vote. If we have to accommodate them up to the point of supporting a child strangler, we have to just accommodate them so that we don't dare lose their vote. They can hold any issue hostage through their right to vote. Anything. They already do. Why do you think the vast majority of men don't get hired and the women do? The vast majority of new jobs go to women. The majority of younger payroll workers today are women. They demanded it and we accommodated. Why do you think the femisphere is so tolerated? The absolute disgusting levels of hatred that women are constantly spewing out towards men. And we just tolerate it, take it on the chin. We've accommodated them. We've accommodated and appeased and fed this beast. We've fed this alligator hoping that it will eat us last. Now it's our turn. And a lot of the guys are waking up and going, you know what? I don't feel like being eaten today. Sorry, no. If that's what a centrist woman requires, they can hold anything hostage, and I'm not allowing that. I am not allowing for that. If you're going to hold this issue hostage, you should not be able to vote. Because if you can hold this hostage, you can hold anything hostage, and we are going to be out of control for the rest of our lives. Any evil is on the table for women if they can hold this issue hostage with their vote. I refuse to accept that. Your boos mean nothing to me. I know what you cheer for. Exactly. But now, yeah, you're starting to see a bunch of women sort of get scared. Women are becoming aware that men are... They're waking up. They're putting their foot down. They're realizing how many issues women have held hostage with their vote. And they're not happy. I'll spend a little bit looking at that. Well, we knew it was going to happen. We knew. Like I said, I'm going to be on the phone with Ziply after this is over. Yeah, F in the chat. We're back. I blame Donald Trump. Thanks, Obama. Yeah, happy times continue. Yeah, I'm sorry, guys. Today is not the happiest of these. But anyways, this woman is, like, she's very upset. Gunner did it. He's asleep. Round orb females attacking. You mean the planetoid-shaped women are out there? Yeah, this woman is very... Yeah, she's like, could have saved a whole lot of time by just never listening to them in the first place. I'm still enjoying my equal rights, though. Right. That's the problem. Rotund, yeah. That's the problem, is y'all are enjoying them a little too hard. And your enjoyment of those rights has become openly murderous, and we're kind of done with it. Here's another one. Yes, women are acting crazy. I do believe it's the result of weak men. There it is. Blame shifting already. They can't help themselves. They can't do it any other way. They cannot take responsibility for themselves. They must blame men somehow. I'm far from feminist. Well, that's what you think. You are very feminist if this is your take. But if men refuse to lead well, then women have no choice but to figure it out on their own. What? Okay, so you acknowledge the women are acting crazy, but this is because men aren't leading well enough. But also you demonize them when they actually do because you call it oppression. Well, we as women shouldn't have to obey our husbands. We just submit, maybe sometimes when we feel like it, but we are still the ones in control of our agency, and we decide whether it's the right thing to do in each particular moment, whether we follow our husband's leadership or not. And if he tries too hard to push us when we think he's wrong, well, then we cry abuse about it to our pastors and to the police and all of that. But really, it's men's fault for not leading. Oh, and by the way, basically every mother for the last 70 years has raised their boys to be like girls. Because when they look at their sons, they see defective daughters. Never mind that you nerfed these guys, and have been for generations now. Families led by strong men who love and protect their wives and children are not having these problems. Well, maybe. Or maybe it's just that those women are happy and content with their husband. They're not on social media, maybe. That's not inflating their standards and expectations for men, the man that they're with. They're more able to be content. Maybe those women have better accountability structures in their lives. People who call them out on their BS. Maybe it's not just about the man being stronger. Maybe it's about those women taking accountability more often and being corrected more. Because when these women say leading well, they don't ever seem to mean correction, discipline, restrictions being placed on them. They never mean that. They mean like some spiritual leadership, like this ephemeral, just vague idea of leadership as a spiritual notion. They never mean like actually, nope, you're in trouble right now because you did an evil thing. Nope, you've been on social media way too much, you need to delete it. And put a lock on your phone. Nope, this behavior right now is an attempt to usurp my leadership as a husband. You're done with that. Yeah, take away the credit card. Nope, you do not get to spend money on that. Sorry, you were way over budget. You're done. That's never what they mean. But then Rachel responds, how did they not get it yet? You can't spend 50 years telling men that any sign of masculinity is toxic and that they need to behave more like women, and then say it's men's fault for being weak and not leading. All women have done is punish them for leading. And refused to follow, yeah. America has weak pastors, elders, leaders. We need to fix that. We desperately need to fix that. This one. I'm unsure if this is a troll account. If it's a troll account, they stuck with the troll very thoroughly through all the replies and stuff, as is a bunch of them. But this person, y'all are quick to blame the mother, but some men treat these women like trash and then walk away, leaving them to raise the kids and deal with the emotional damage. Men contribute to these mental health struggles too, and they need to be held accountable. Okay, you got any evidence of that? Any supporting anything? Any stories that show, that would like back up the idea that any of these women who've done this had a really trash man? I know a lot of forensic astrologists are using all kind of crystals and moon positions to very authoritatively confirm that these men are evil criminals. But do we have any, like, I don't know, hey, call me crazy, but could we maybe get some like real world evidence? Something not connected to astrology, something like, hey, we've got like some video evidence of this guy being a terrible person, causing emotional damage somehow. Do we have any evidence to support any of this? I could go for some evidence right now. That's what I'm saying. I could go for some. I don't know about you guys, but... And this person just kept it up. And they're just, you know, lambasting anybody. Which is why I think it's possible this is a troll. But it just went on and on and on. And it was really dark, some of it. The defenses of this mindset. Yeah, delete this. Save a shred of dignity and delete this. He committed adultery. He should be charged as well. Yeah, okay, whatever. Charged with, okay, so cheating is now a crime that should be charged. All right, can we charge women who cheat on their husbands? Is that now on the table? I'm not against that. I'll never understand the female conservative influencer advocating to repeal the 19th. So you want women to lose their voting rights while continuing to make political content and influencing political outcomes? I think this girl thought she ate when she said that. I think she thought she was cooking, but those two things, like, what's your logical connection here? What does this have to do with, what does them making political content and influencing the outcomes have anything to do with that? They're going to do that either way. Is she like insinuating that things will somehow get worse if women are influencing via content but not voting? Is she insinuating that that would somehow be worse? Like, there's no logical point being made here. Adriana Flowers. I follow her. She's got some really good takes. Women have always had political power. It started in the home. Men would vote for what would benefit the whole family. Women influenced husbands even if he is the one to make the final decision. Yeah, household vote. Repealing the 19th means making the vote stronger and more meaningful than it currently is. Agree. Yeah. This is funny. The 19th Amendment has nothing to do with posting online, dumbass. Yeah. This goes on for a while. Oh my goodness. This was funny and dark and terrible. This guy, this is bad. It just goes on and on like this, where he's like, come on, baby, look sad. There you go. Oh gosh. This is dark and stupid, but this is what it is. This is a doll, by the way, for YouTube's sake, so I don't get canceled. Yeah, that's roughly what... Okay, ladies, when you say same Lindsay, this is what us as men, this is what we see in playing out in our minds. This is what we see. You think you're like, oh, I'm such a victim of my circumstances. Oh, my life is so hard. This is what we see. We see you saying that you despise your kid. And you want to harm them. And this guy's kind of pointing that out in kind of a funny way. But he's visualizing what goes on in our head when you say this, ladies. Yeah, same Chris Benoit. Who I believe was he the guy that's the professional wrestler who killed his kid? Yeah, this is what any sane person with functioning brain cells sees. Yeah. Yeah, now do Andrea. Yeah, like you guys mentioned. Yeah, Lindsay Clancy murdered 5 children. She drowned them. Or Andrea did. Andrea Yates. Yep. Like you guys mentioned, this was in 2001. Black Raptor. What's funny is if you look at voting patterns, all actual conservative women would 100% be for the vote going away. Yeah. Any actually, well, we won't say conservative, we'll say right wing. Because I think Christian Heinz' point about this is somewhat right. Most women tend to be, even liberal women are actually conservative in that they want to maintain the current liberal status quo. But yes, like right-wing women would actually be totally fine with the vote going away. In fact, again, as many of them say all the time, hey, if me losing my vote protects these kids, take it away. I would much rather these kids live. Because it turns out not all women want children to be unalived at every turn. Some of them actually do want to protect the kids. Genuinely. Some of them have properly functioning maternal instincts still. Imagine that. And they're perfectly happy with giving up their right to vote if it means that more babies live. But the problem is, that number is far smaller than anyone on the right wing wants to admit right now. Which is why they're all so concerned about losing the vote from those conservative girl boss ladies. Yeah, they would be 100% for their vote going away, as the only things that would pass is what they want anyways. Right, no abortions. Yeah, the average right-wing woman is totally happy with her husband being the one who votes because her husband is going to vote for the same stuff she would. The only reason you'd need an individual vote for women is if you are intentionally planning for this woman to vote differently than their husbands. Think about that. You're assuming and a need for women to vote based on the assumption that women will have a completely different idea of how the world should be run than their husbands do. So often they do. They will disagree on it. But with a separate vote, those women end up voting differently than their husbands, and the woman's vote doesn't have to pass through the rationale check, the logic and reason and evidence check of going through her husband. It just goes through her feelings. I feel like we need open borders. I feel like we need all manner of aid programs that can be easily scammed by anybody without any consequence. I feel this, I feel that. And it doesn't ever have to pass through her husband's logic check. That's all you're doing when you're splitting up the vote. You're bypassing the reasonable, the reason and rationale filter of the husband. Yeah, there wasn't 10 Adam and Eves and 7. Yeah, there wasn't 10 Adam and Eves and 7 of the Eves ate the fruit. It wasn't like that, yeah. Rule by feelings, very dangerous. That's what we're in right now. But again, that's what I've been saying this whole time is the majority of women today are now mask off. They have revealed themselves to be unfit to govern, to rule, to decide our future. They've been unfit. They are unfit to decide our governance and our policies. We need to make sure this stays in the public view. That's what I'm trying my best to do. We live under inversion of natural order, yeah. And we need to take back that natural order now. And on the slightly positive side, for as many women as there are freaking out and being like, oh shoot, we're about to lose. There was one woman who posted on here, she said, we're about to lose our right to vote, aren't we? For as many women freaking out about that as there are, being like, oh no, we got to shift the attention away from women and back over to men somehow so that we don't lose all of this power that we've garnered. There are a number of women actually who are like, nope, we're done.
We have spent decades demanding that women be treated equal, which means equal adults and equal agency. So why then, when a woman commits a horrific act like murdering her children, do we suddenly put hormones, her doctor, her husband, and her system on trial instead?
Yeah.
Everybody is responsible but her. That is not feminism, guys. That is paternalism in pink. And the Lindsay Clancy case is exposing something much bigger in our culture. Mental illness, postpartum psychosis, depression, despair, grief, that is all real. We should treat them seriously and help people.
Yeah, okay. They are not as much of a thing as we treat them like. There's probably a lot more spiritual going on here than just those things, but fine. And there's probably an element, I firmly believe there is an element of mass hysteria to this. Matt, I think God is using you at a very important moment. Keep doing what you're doing. Oh, man, it's hard. I got to be honest, guys. It is really hard to keep going. It's on a personal note. I'm stuck in a very in-between time right now where I can't really do this full time yet. I don't have enough support yet. So I have a full-time job that I do on the side, but doing this is also a full-time job, and I have family, and it's reaching kind of a wall right now, so things aren't really moving in any directions. It's been very difficult. So please pray for me. This is not an easy place to be in right now. I didn't let her finish, but yeah, I know. Evil forces are messing with me. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Pray for me, guys. We love you and we thank you for this. If it wasn't for men like you, I'd pray for my life to end daily. Well, I'm glad you're still here, man. I pray for you guys for exactly that reason. But yeah, what she's addressing here is the logic bomb. We wanted to have full power and full agency and all the right to vote and all the same influence as men. But we can't be held accountable for it. What women are showing is that they actually, I'm starting to understand what, Mike at Heroes Forge and Joel Webman and all those guys say when they say women don't actually have agency. What they mean is that women actually aren't in control of their decisions as much as they want to believe they are. And they keep telling us that. They keep telling us that their decisions come from the men in their lives and what the men in their lives do to them or all of that. Their decisions come from their hormones. That's not agency. Agency is when you make decisions. If your decisions are being hijacked by your emotions or they are constantly just reactions to the people around you, you do not have agency, you are a follower. And if you do not have agency, if you are not the one that's actually making the decision, your hormones are, or the bad situation that you're in, if that's what's actually making your decisions, if your hormones are making decisions through you and you're just a vessel for them, okay, even if I trusted you as a woman to be in charge or to teach or to lead or to correct other people, to vote, whatever it is, even if I trusted you, I don't trust your hormones. I don't trust whatever spiritual force is influencing you from the outside. I don't trust your circumstances. I don't trust the things that you're now appealing to as the reason why you can't be held accountable. Even if I trusted you, which maybe I do. But I don't trust the things controlling you. So no, you should not get to have the influence and the power that you do.
Before they reach
I don't trust the Zodiac. Yeah, I don't trust the occult forces that you appeal to. I don't trust any of it. And I don't want to be ruled by those things that rule over you. We're done with that. And if the only path to get out from under the rulership of that is for us to be a bit harsh with you for a while, ladies, we're going to be a bit harsh for a while. Black Raptor, I'm starting to think Adam should have negotiated more with the I'm not sure I understand what you're saying here. I'm starting to think Adam should have negotiated with more than a rib. Oh. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, man. It's wild.
I'm not telling people just to get over it, but when did compassion start requiring us to just completely erase accountability? Because explanation and absolution are not the same. Just look at the double standard. When a troubled young man becomes angry, isolated, or destructive, guess what society says? Buck up. Whatever happened to you are your choices.
Yeah,
You
agency.
own them. But when a woman commits a horrific, violent act, suddenly the question becomes, who failed her?
Yeah.
Her doctors, her husband, society, motherhood, the system. I mean, everybody else. And meanwhile,
Yeah.
who are we
You don't have agency.
barely talking about? Not only her children that have
YouTube wouldn't let you type rib. That's a little strange. Why is it censoring the word rib? I wonder.
disappeared. Patrick Clancy, a father who came home and found his children dead. We have developed
Again, horrific.
an enormous vocabulary for maternal suffering, but almost no vocabulary for paternal grief.
Anguish. Deep, life-destroying anguish. When these men suffer through this, it's not even just when your kids are ripped away from you like this. You're king, like King David saying, he will not come to me, but I will go to him. He lost his kid. Man, it's anguish. Despair. This is horrific. Nightbreed. Nick Freitas has been liking and reposting Instagram posts defending Lindsay because of mental health. Really telling. That's not encouraging. Yeah, interesting. Maybe that's the divide that somebody was talking about. Somebody was referencing how there's now a divide at the Blaze between guys like Oren McIntyre and John Doyle and some of the others. Maybe that's what they were referencing. Maybe it's John Doyle and Oren McIntyre and his gang versus some of the newcomers like Nick Freitas and Josh Howerton. Maybe. Not encouraging.
Everyone asks what compassion requires for Lindsay. Well, what does justice require for Patrick?
Boom.
What does justice require for Cora, Dawson, and Callan? Patrick has shown enormous compassion.
Yeah,
Forgiveness.
we've been prioritizing compassion over justice because that's what women do. Women are in charge today. And they've gotten rid of actual justice and replaced it with compassion. Justice for victims, actual victims, gone. Compassion for perpetrators, that is the new justice. Done with it.
Forgiveness is personal. Accountability is societal. A husband's forgiveness cannot erase that his 3 children are dead. It cannot answer the legal question a jury has to answer. This isn't about having less compassion for women. It's about refusing to infantilize women by pretending suffering automatically eliminates agency. Cora Dawson and Callan should remain at the center of this story. Patrick deserves the compassion, and Lindsay deserves a fair trial, which we give in America, and a serious consideration of genuine mental illness. And our justice system owes all
I don't know
of
about that.
the truth, because compassion and accountability are not enemies. And when empathy for the perpetrator becomes so consuming that the victims disappear, well, we have crossed a dangerous line.
Yeah, that's where I sort of lose her a little bit. No, we didn't cross a dangerous line. That is just the way that women treat justice. Anytime there's crime, that is what women do. They prioritize empathy and compassion over actual justice and accountability. She's acting as if this is new. It's not. She's acting as if, oh, we've crossed a line now. No. What has been ignored and swept aside and dismissed is now just becoming mainstream knowledge. That's what's happening. It's time to catch up on that. Oh, and this is happening too. Guys are now starting to break up with their girlfriends over this exact issue. And this one was great. So you're really breaking up with me over an effing opinion? I'm not breaking up with you over an opinion. I'm breaking up with you because that opinion showed me a fundamental difference in our values. Yeah, dodging accountability, bringing accountability. No, I can't. It's just an opinion. I can't be held responsible for the opinions that I have. That would be controlling of you. Nope. No, your opinion reveals what matters to you. And apparently, the kids' lives don't matter anywhere near as much as Lindsay's feelings. I can have compassion for someone struggling mentally without excusing what happened to those children. If I'm choosing someone to potentially be the mother of my kids, I need to trust their judgment completely, especially when it comes to protecting them. What you said created a doubt in me that I can't ignore or gamble my future children on. There it is. Like I said earlier, the trust has been broken for a long time between men and women now. Last couple of decades, really. All of the discourse has centered around divorce, though. And so conservatives, tradcons versus red pill guys, or whatever you want to call me. That's been the debate. The tradcons will say, well, just get married anyway, because if you just, become our kind of Christian in our sect, our denomination or whatever, our stats, it's low enough that it's not a big enough risk. And if it's really dependent on how good of a man you are. If you're a good enough servant leader and you're a spiritual enough man and you love God enough, that's what protects you anyway. So it is really nothing to do with women. It's all about you and your faith. And so just do it anyway. To which the red pill guys respond, no, it's not working out that way. We have lots and lots of stories of good Christian men who are reviled and despised by their husbands and divorced and destroyed by them. And that's been the conversation that we've been going back and forth on. Ping pong, back and forth. Point for point. Now it's not about divorce anymore. Women's behavior and treatment of men broke men's trust badly. Tradcons have tried to say ignore it and forgive. Just get married anyway. But now, it's not just about how these women are treating the men. It's not just about whether or not these guys can trust that woman to actually stick around and not screw them over in divorce court. It's not just about whether they can trust that that woman's going to remain loving and caring and supportive as a helper. Whether they can trust that she won't flip a switch the moment the wedding ceremony's over and start despising him and attacking him, cutting him down at every opportunity, trying to push him away. That's not the trust issue anymore. Now it's about the kids. Men are going to look at this and they're going to go, man, it's not just about whether or not I can trust that she will treat me well. Can I trust my kids' lives with this woman. Oh, but it's so rare that a woman actually does something like this and kills her kids. But how many millions of women are so in support of Lindsay? How many? And what do you think that means? Even if they don't actually do anything physically to their kids, what do you think that's going to mean for their kids psychologically growing up? Knowing that your mom despised you and didn't want you and felt these feelings that she wanted to end your life constantly and really refused to allow herself to be held accountable for it. Refused to analyze her value systems and how those were impacting her feelings. Refused to analyze the content and influences she's receiving and how those are impacting her feelings. Refused, because she's saying, no, I can't give up any of that, my agency or my control or my the things that I want, any of my, anything I want, in anything that satisfies my hungers in life. I can't give up any of those, no matter how they influence me emotionally. And guys are right to say, all right, fine then. You refuse to submit yourself to accountability. You refuse to cut yourself off from things that negatively impact your emotional state. You refuse to build up a mental bulwark against those things. You refuse to find some way to stop ruminating on those bad things. You refuse. And instead you want to just excuse those behaviors. Because again, that's what we're saying. These women want those behaviors excused and normalized. Those feelings excused and normalized so they don't have to do anything about it. They don't have to do anything drastic about it. They don't have to experience anything harsh as a result of it. Millions of women out there now mask off about this, and guys are like, how can I trust that this woman is actually going to raise my kids in a positive way and nurture them and love them, truly value them and cherish them, if she despises them so badly that she wants to end their life? Or she supports women who do. The trust is broken. Not just because of divorce. This is about the life and well-being of their kids. Yeah, the man up and just get married. Yeah, anything to defend Milady, yeah. The man up and just get married, just do it. We don't need to change anything else or fix anything first. Or the assumption that it'll just fix itself if guys just step up and do better and get married more. This problem will just sort itself out naturally. Those are dead. Those are gone. Hopefully I will now have more people on my side after this in the fight to retake our churches and communities. That is the next step, though, is we need to start exposing how many conservative and Christian women are on board with this. Or pushing back when we call it out and saying, hey, we need to be really, really gracious. We don't want to cast the first stone. We got to just be compassionate and understanding and be kind and nice and sweet and gentle. Nope, we're past that. We've coddled, we've been nice. We've done that as men for generations now, and it has only made things worse. We're done. But yeah, part of what we need to do is expose how many conservative Christian women are supporting this. We now have our metric. We now have our rubric that we can grade women's attitudes on. Actually, we have a few now at this point. We're stacking them up. Now we can do the work of exposing the reality that this is not a partisan issue. This is not a my tribe versus your tribe. This is not a atheist versus Christian issue. This is not a left versus right issue. There are women who agree with this stuff in every camp. This is a structural issue. We've weakened our accountability structure so badly. These women do this because they know they can get away with it, and they'll be supported and praised for it openly. That has to change. It has to become uncomfortable for these women in at least some setting. It has to become, no, we do not need to be so sweet and nice and comforting to women who think and feel these ways. No, we don't. Because the more you make it comfortable for women to do this, the more they will do it. We need to do the opposite. We need to start making it deeply uncomfortable for these women to behave in these ways and to hold on to these attitudes. That's where we need to go. That means bringing shame back, making shame great again. Hey, that's what we need to do. If that means we have to be the villains and be the bad guys, be, quote, oppressors, as they would label us, by instituting restrictions on women, restricting them from things like social media, perhaps, dating apps and all of that. Which, by the way, that's another thing. Postpartum depression, whatever you want to call it, correlates heavily with the number of past sexual partners a person has had. That stat has been making the rounds. There's a bunch of research on that. I actually don't have it pulled up here, but a simple search, a simple Grok search will pull you up more than you ever wanted to know about it. It also correlates to the age of first sexual experience. So, yeah. These women are unwilling to give up the behaviors and the indulgences that lead them to feel these particular ways. We're not comforting that anymore. We're not making that stuff comfortable. We might need to place restrictions on that. And yeah, so the path forward, the only way out of this is for us to accept the villain role, the oppressor who restrict women from things that are killing them and leading them to kill others. It's no longer time to be nice about it. At the end of the bar, this is Satan's playbook. When I saw Satan in my occult days, he was in the form of Baphomet, a hermaphrodite. Yikes. Holding my newborn niece in one hand and a dagger in the other. Oof. His goal is to kill kids or form them in his image. That's powerful. Yeah, there's no being nice with that. These behaviors. This is the outworking of the devil. This is his workmanship. You do not be compassionate with the handiwork of the devil. You don't. You do what the early church did. They were aggressive when it came to sin. It did not matter if it was a man or a woman. Again, as I reference often, look at Paul's rebuke of both Ananias and Sapphira in their sin of hypocrisy. There's nowhere near as bad. What they did is nowhere near as bad as this. How aggressive Paul was in his letters in dealing with things like sexual immorality and all manner of evil. He was aggressive in prosecuting it in the church. He's not friendly about it. By the way, Ananias and Sapphira, Paul's rebuke was so harsh. It does not appear to have been him that did this, but they ended up dead. It appears to have been the Holy Spirit that did it. But his rebuke was harsh on both the man and the woman. God did not play favorites among gender when it came to sin. Paul's rebuke was harsh, and God's discipline was harsh. And he did that to protect his church from the spread of that, to prevent that sin from spreading throughout that church. I think, yeah, you're right. This is Satan's playbook. children live at the stage of, children exist. What's a better way to say this? Children are the most vulnerable moment of God's image that there is. The devil's goal is to attack and destroy God's image in his creation, to mutilate it, to twist it, to infect it, and ultimately to kill it. He hates God, but he can't get to God. So he tries to hurt God by going after God's favorite creations, those of us made in his image. And children are when that image is at its most vulnerable. So yes, of course, he attacks children first. Yeah, it's disgusting. We're watching it play out in real time.
Off their kids or having thoughts of offing their kids. The most insane part about the entire Lindsay Clancy situation is that once again we have a horde of women blaming a man for something that the actual perpetrator of the crime isn't even denying that she did. She's just pleading insanity. She's not saying she did not do it.
Yeah.
And all the other women who are, backing her, they're actually just going against their own feminist principles. Because if women are not able to be held accountable for their actions, if they have no agency over or responsibility over their actions, then they can't be legally or morally responsible for anything. So then you start thinking, what does that actually mean? Someone doesn't have free will. Someone doesn't have choice. Someone doesn't have responsibility.
That's what we mean, yes. If women are that helpless, they're at that much at the mercy of the system or the men in their lives, or she blacked out, her husband told her she did it, or it's just, it's everything in their life is done to them. They do not have free will, and they should not be given any authority to do anything or position to correct others, ever.
They can't be held responsible. That would then kind of mean they belong to someone else.
Yep.
Their fathers and husbands. Because if they can't be held responsible, who's to be held responsible? You guys are making the PR for women so much worse by openly admitting that you are emotionally unregulated, you have no adult control of your emotions, you have no free will, you have no agency, that apparently a bunch of you have murderous thoughts surrounding your children, and by once again blaming a man so that a woman does not have to take responsibility for her own horrendous, evil, horrible actions. It's almost like we've swung so far the other way, we're just reverting way back to the beginning. By the way, no one is saying postpartum depression or postpartum psychosis don't exist. No one is saying that she should have been on all of those drugs. What we're saying is that that still doesn't give you the right to go kill your kids and then not be held fully accountable for those actions. And what I find confusing is if I was in the position where I apparently went into some psychosis and I murdered my children, I would want to die. So I don't really get the argument here. I don't get her defending herself so hard. I don't. Bad month to be a woman. Between the WNBA and this, and all the trends going around on TikTok of women throwing tantrums, it is a bad month to be a woman. Same Lindsay is now a new trend on TikTok because I guess now it's normal.
Yeah, so, but again, what you're seeing is these women are waking up to this and going, oh shoot, our arguments are terrible. Oh, it was Peter that rebuked Ananias and Sapphira? Okay. For some reason, it was always Paul in my mind, but yeah, point is still true. Exactly. Yeah, it was Peter. But again, I've been saying Paul this whole time and I've been wrong. I always get details like that mixed up. But yes. Yeah, you rebuked Ananias and Sapphira and the Holy Spirit came in and went, deleted. Both of them. And the rebuke is the same. I love that story for the purposes of showing that accountability must be equal. It must be administered to the same degrees because both a man and a woman committed the same sin at the same time. They both went to the same person about it at the same time, but not exactly the same time. They staggered it. One went in, received the rebuke and the discipline. The other went in, received the same rebuke and the same discipline. Meaning, it wasn't simply just this situation where, because this is an important detail to that story. If they could have gone in at the same time, And it would have made sense for them to go in at the same time. And if God had wanted to communicate to us that no, it's just the man. Men are responsible for everything, and men are the ones who need to be held accountable. What could have taken place is they both went in there, and the man gave his account, and the woman gave his account with them, and they were both judged at the same time exactly. And you could then say, well, she was only given that judgment because she was there with the man at the time, and she was just helpless and went along with the man and all of that. And really, it's just a judgment on the man that she just happened to be caught up in. She's helpless. Again, you could say that. But the fact that they were separate, they did the same exact thing and went separately and got the same rebuke separately, shows us no. This isn't just about a man and, oh no, it's collateral damage that's spilled over to the woman. It's nope, they were both given the exact same rebuke as individuals, but the man and a woman. They were both given the exact same discipline by God himself. So God, you can't even say, well, this is, Peter was wrong about this. Peter should have acted differently. No. God backed it up. God judged the situation exactly the same and said, nope. Same discipline for both of them, man and the woman. And it wasn't even as bad of a sin as this. Yeah, this is pretty good. A man built a fence to keep the wolves out, and it worked. The wolves stayed away. However, forgetting about the wolves, his wife believed the fence was meant to trap her and tore it down. Soon after, she was eaten by wolves. This isn't about wolves. So yeah, you have this battle going on between a number of women who are realizing, hey, shoot, our arguments are actually pretty bad for our leadership and authority and all of these, our right to vote and all of that. Our arguments for it are kind of falling down because we have so long refused to take accountability, and we have for so long been saying we actually don't have agency. We don't have free will. We are completely puppeted by everything that happens around us. Oops. Now we're scared and we're freaking out because we're about to lose our rights, and we're captured by the feminist power premise, and we believe we need those rights in order to be valuable. So shoot, damage control mode. How can we fix this? How can we make this so that we keep our rights and keep our lack of accountability? How can we keep all of this stuff, but appease the men who are now frustrated with what we're doing with it? So they're flipping out right now and they have no idea what to do. And then you have some other women who are like, yeah, you know what, ladies? We were wrong. We messed up. We shouldn't have pushed so hard for all this. Yeah, women literally just want to be children, protected by the system, but not held accountable for their behavior. Yeah. Well, not just protected, but empowered by the system. And having their power protected by the system, but not held accountable by it. Yeah, exactly. Oh, yeah. And this is the stat we were referencing earlier. Okay, so for young men, the most important issue is to be able to get a job to support a family. And by far. For young women, the most important issue is to be able to kill their baby. And it's not even close. Look at that. Second place is way down there. They really despise their kids. Why? And ridiculous evil. Yeah. And they want us to believe that they're qualified to lead the human race. Yeah, okay, so she goes over Nick Freitas' take on this whole situation.
Pretty cut and dry. She sent her husband on an errand and then killed her 3 children.
By the way, he's repeating how his wife responded to this situation.
Death penalty. And then I saw about half the women on the internet coming to her defense, and I thought, is there something I'm missing here? So I asked my wife what she thought. And my wife, who's a very reasonable and rational woman, said, well, If you look at her diary entries, there's a reason why a lot of women can sympathize with the feeling of being overwhelmed or failing as a wife and a mother, because your hormones can go nuts after having kids. When you also look at the various medical providers she had and the fact that she was on a strange cocktail of 13 different types of drugs, from antidepressants to mood stabilizers, et cetera, you can also suggest that that's probably a bad thing and something to consider. However, this is the part where my wife is a reasonable and rational person. She still sent her husband on an error while she systematically strangled the life out of her 3 children, and that's evil and deserves to be punished.
Yeah.
So one can have sympathy for these other things while still making sure that the preponderance of your sympathy goes to the children who were murdered. By the way, for the women out there that think the husband actually did it, because after all, he's a Gemini and we all know how they are, yeah, you shouldn't be allowed to vote. In fact, you probably shouldn't be allowed to walk outside without a helmet.
I have to agree with this wholeheartedly. Her defense is arguing that she had undiagnosed bipolar disorder and postpartum psychosis.
Yeah, his wife's explanation on that is still trying to excuse it a bit. A little bit. Yeah. I'm a bit harsher. I'm quite a bit harsher on it than his wife is. But I also am not impressed with the fact that he's leaning on his wife's opinion about it instead of just having his own opinion and saying it with his chest. I would prefer that. Yeah, his wife, in a sense, is trying to say, well, you know, it may have been that she's just mentally unwell, and so, you know, hey, we can't be harsh on her. But at the same time, she is actually saying, hey, she should be punished for what she did. Concession slop, yeah. Balanced take, still going to jail for life. Well, I hope she is. Let's see. Michael T over in Discord. I remember hearing somewhere about the male backlash. I'm not going to say we should consider the sides of the coin or have compassion or whatever, but I will say I do fear our losing of selves in this period of change, i.e. tunnel vision or reckless destruction. Yeah, and that is one thing I would caution, is we can't get swept up into evil ourselves. And that is... It's like, yes, we do need to be more harsh in the ways that we confront and combat evil, but we can't fall into evil ourselves. We do have to keep close watch on our own hearts and our own sinful flesh and our desire to just destroy. Not saying that will be easy. It will need God's provision to get through this. I know very well that without God, I'll do some wicked things. Oof. I'm feeling a lot of the same ways, and I think there's a lot of other guys that would agree with you. Praise be to him who has not given up on me and still willing to teach, discipline, and correct, and guide and heal and wash me. Amen, dude. Yeah. 100 to that. Yeah, don't go past justice to the point where it becomes retribution. It's probably a good way to put it. Yeah. I watched some of what she had to say. I don't really think she added very much to it. We can skip that. We're running low on time. Yeah. Just a couple of extra bonus takes here. Lisa Britton occasionally says some interesting things. I believe that society has a persistent double standard when it comes to holding women accountable for their actions. You don't say. Welcome to what we've known for a few years now. You're catching up. We give women a level of compassion and grace that we rarely give to men. We see this clearly with, in cases like Lindsay Clancy's, a mother murders her children, and the dominant public reaction is sympathy, like, oh, that poor woman, what happened to her? Well, the same crime committed by a man gets none of that reaction. We see it in the UK, where authorities are phasing out juvenile prisons for girls, but not for boys, on the grounds that girls who commit crimes are primarily dealing with emotional and mental health issues. There it is. Why is that same understanding not applied to boys? And this is where I would push back against Nick's wife. It's like, are you going to be equal about it? If you're going to say, hey, we got to have compassion, that's where I would push back against her, as to say, okay, be careful about how much compassion you have for her mental health issues and how much you frame it as mental health issues instead of just evil and sin. And just hatred in her heart that she needs to repent of, be careful how you frame that. You may end up misdiagnosing the problem, and you may end up leading to more of this where we apply the wrong fix. Because, yeah, you might be saying, hey, let's have compassion for her mental health, but that mental health thing is the whole foundation of the don't hold women accountable movement. Yeah, we see here in the States where men receive 60+% jail time for the same crimes committed by women. I think it's 63%. We see it when a woman decides she isn't ready to become a mother and ends the pregnancy. Society largely accepts this as an acceptable choice. But we show far less compassion for a man who doesn't feel ready to become a father. Or we have no compassion for men who do want to become a father and the girl kills it anyway. And he can't stop it because he has no right to the child. No compassion whatsoever for that. Or for the child that the father actually wants to raise. We see it in dating relationships, women who are encouraged to keep traditional expectations of men and are told they deserve standards. Men who voice comparable preferences are demonized for them. I could go on and on. I believe we need to start holding women to the same standards of accountability we already apply to men. I've been saying this for the last couple of years. And I'm very glad that I'm no longer the only one saying it. Yeah, there's Chris Benoit. Not a single TikTok video of anyone asking to understand his side. And there's a good one. Yeah. Yep. They're freaking out. This one's a little bit of a joke. Hold on. At the end of the bar. Many people feel like a reckoning is coming. Personally, I feel like we're really close to end times. We should fight back, but always hold God first. Yeah. Yeah, let's go to God. Let's ask him what he wants. Let's go to his word, see what his word says about it. Let's look at the examples of what the early church did, how they addressed this type of evil. They didn't stand by and do nothing. I know that. They didn't prioritize compassion for the perpetrators. I know that much. But let's see what God did. Let's see what the early church did. Let's go back to that. This one, I just wanted to throw this in here because I thought it was funny. So there's some women who are kind of waking up to the reality. Well, once they get older, and she, starting to hit the wall a little bit. Things start to change.
The dishes.
I mean, like, what do you like to do for fun?
Oh, for fun. Laundry? So what do you do for work?
I work in finance.
My body counts.
What?
Keep going.
Yeah, so I work at, what are you doing right now? All right.
I can make banana bread.
In the comments, yeah, the banana bread was the thing that killed. Everybody's like, so what do you do? The dishes? Yeah. Somebody in here said, I don't know where it is, but somebody said anything approaching 30 is on clearance. Yeah, such a chameleon. Yeah. That's what I'm saying. Is women, whether it's a joke or whether it's serious, women are starting to realize that guys are noticing. And they're starting to go, oh shoot, how can we get out of this pickle that we've gotten ourselves in? We've treated guys like garbage. We've treated our kids like garbage. We've treated the wife role like garbage for so long. Yeah, banana bread and laundry sold. Yeah, but that's exactly what she's banking on. But yeah, these women are they're like, how can we get out of this? I know, banana bread and laundry. That'll fix it. So. They called me a pygmy back in 28 for genuinely being like this, and now it's trendy. Those women can screw off. Yeah. Well, it hits different when you're at 20 than when you're at 30. I think that's part of the difference, love. for these ladies when they start to hit 30, again, yeah, somebody said they're on anything past 25 is on, yeah, here's where it is. Anything past 25 is on clearance, bruh. Here, let me show you. Yeah, that was funny. But yeah, the ladies are realizing they are realizing that they effed up bad. The winds are changing. They're starting to blow back against them and they don't like it. Trying to figure out how they can keep all of what they have right now, but still appease the men who are pissed off about their behavior. How can we get out of this? Maintain the status quo while giving up nothing in return. So, what did we learn today, guys? We learned not to accept this, I think. We learned that women do not have agency. They do not apparently have free will, for the most part. They do not have the ability to make their own decisions. Yet they insist that we would be evil if we took away their authority, their power, their influence. We learned that no, if we do take away women's power, we're not actually taking away their power, we're taking away the power of whatever forces are working through them. Whatever hormones are controlling these women, whatever systems or people around them that are controlling these women, whatever dark spiritual forces that are puppeteering these women. If we take power away from women, we're not actually taking power away from women, so they have no agency. No, we're taking away power from whatever things are using these women and puppeting them. And so it would not actually be an evil injustice to take power away from women. I think that's part of what we learned today. So how do we use this? How do we apply this going forward? Well, again, as we saw, the time for nice is over. The time to shame and fight against evil has come. It's time to be harsh. Women are generally not influenced by logic and reason. They're not swayed by it, as a man would be, typically. They're swayed by social influences. So we, as men, must become that social influence that pushes these women away from evil and pulls them onto the narrow path by any means necessary. Zyke, I'd like to end with this bit of a dark joke. Headline: Brave feminist swims across floodwaters to bravely slap a drowning child. It might be funnier if it wasn't exactly what we're looking at right now. I appreciate that, man. I brought this up. Shame has to be brought back last Christmas when my babysitter asked, how do we fix things? She couldn't comprehend it. She said, we already do that. Well, yeah, that's just it. It's that Thomas Sowell quote. When people get used to preferential treatment, ordinary treatment feels like discrimination to them. And that's where we are with women. They've had so much preferential treatment that if you started treating them normally and enacting normal consequences for bad behavior, it will feel like discrimination. They will cry discrimination. They will cry oppression. Which is why, as we said, men need to stop listening to women. They need to start listening to God. It said this. But he said to Adam, because you obeyed your wife. There it is. Men need to stop obeying women over God. That is the only way out of this. You need to start implementing consequences. Start with social consequences. If churches refuse to implement this themselves, then we'll need to create parallel churches. We'll need to create our own little bubble, our own little Amish bubble. Hey, if the Amish can do it, how much more can we? That's where we head next. It's one of the and I think that actually can work. It's one of the reasons why I'm not totally black pill, in spite of the numbers. Well, based on our little argument on the last stream about the black pill, I will be discussing that more in the future. We'll come back to that. I will discuss it a bit more. I'll try to get into a bit more nuanced of a take on it and why I'm not fully black pill myself yet. I do still think there is a way for us to create a bubble world, even if we can't convince the rest of the world to change. But I am also encouraged by how many conservative Christian men have had their Papa Bear influence activated. That's another thing we learned today. A lot of right-wing men are starting to wake up to women's nature, to women's sin nature, and how far it has drifted and how inflamed it has become. And again, as you mentioned earlier, this is it. This is the only thing that could have done it. The only thing that these men could have ever cared about more than rescuing the poor women, being the white knight who swoops in to rescue the woman. The only thing they could possibly care more about than rescuing those poor women is rescuing these kids. So as much as this sucks, it had to be this, or these guys would have never woken up. None of them, not a single one. And so I am hopeful that this is a turning point, that the men of influence will now start to put their foot down and say no to women. I'm hopeful because of that. Bullshark, not from this lesson. I learned that people of a demographic have to speak out against their own institute any change regarding gender, race, etc. Yeah. To institute any change regarding, yeah. Yeah, you have to be willing to speak out against your own. You can't buckle down and just go, nope, all of the problems are out there with the other tribe or the other gender or the other demographic of any kind. No, it doesn't work like that. You're right. Mr. Belfast, I saw a few science studies indicating women literally do not see men they don't want as partners as people. I hope for change, but I'm not expecting it. I've been looking for those studies myself. I can't find actual links to them. Maybe I need to sick rock on this. But if you have those, if you're over on the Discord, send those in to me in the Discord. At me in the Discord. I would like to see them and I would like to use them. I would really appreciate that. Anyways, that's all I got time for today. Guys, I got to get going. I have an appointment in a little bit, but yeah, we learned some things. And again, guys, yeah, I'm stuck in a very difficult spot right now in a very in-between place. And it is a heavier weight than I as a single human being am able to carry. Pray for the men of influence of this time, this moment in time. Amen. Do it. They are the ones who will decide where the course of the general population in our country goes. So pray for them, yeah. But yeah, pray for me. I don't know how much longer I can keep doing both of these jobs at the same time. Just being honest. So pray that something changes, something breaks one way or the other. But yeah. Thank you guys for being here. Blessings and discernment to you too. And yeah, consider becoming a channel member. That does help. Starting to build up some support base. That really does help. Share this with as many people as you possibly can. Pray for me. I wish I wasn't alive. Yeah. Head over to the Discord and get the guys to pray for you. Highly recommend that. Go watch the new video on the wife score calculator. For all of you complaining that I don't do regular videos anymore. I did 2 this month. Anyways, that is, yeah, don't be a ghost watcher. Hit the like, subscribe buttons, guys. That's all I got this time. Let's keep stacking dubs. Let's keep up the fight. Peace.